Is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Speaker, in 2005, 16 cities competed for the right to become the home of the U.S. Marshals Museum. The city in my district, Fort Smith, was one of the two finalists and was ultimately chosen for many reasons, one of which was its strong historical connection to the U.S. Marshals Service. Fort Smith was for many years the seat of justice not only for the Western District of Arkansas, but Indian Territory as well. More marshals and deputies have been killed in the line of duty out of the Western District of Arkansas than any other district in the country. Most were killed riding out under famed Judge Isaac C. Parker, immortalized by the novel True Grit and the movies by the same name. A few months ago, Mr. Speaker, I introduced legislation to mint a coin to commemorate the 225th anniversary of the U.S. Marshals Service. Today, I'm pleased to be standing here with the opportunity to urge my fellow members, many of whom are co-sponsors of this bill, to join me in honoring a truly deserving institution. The proceeds from the sale of these coins will assist in the preservation and maintenance of artifacts and documents which will be displayed in the U.S. Marshals Museum. Additional proceeds will go to the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association, the National Law Enforcement Museum, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The museum, which will overlook the beautiful Arkansas River, will consist of 20,000 square feet of exhibit space to highlight pivotal moments in the history of the U.S. Marshals Service, such as the going Snake Massacre of April 15, 1872, which left 1 deputy and 7 posse men dead in the bloodiest day in Marshals history. This event will be the central exhibit of this museum. A Hall of Honor for fallen marshals will also be part of the more than $50 million facility paying tribute to those killed in the line of duty, from Robert Forsyth in 1794 to Marshals Derrick Hodson-Pillar and John Perry in 2011. In addition to serving as a symbol and constant reminder of the character and tradition of one of America's greatest institutions, this commemorative coin will allow the U.S. Marshals Museum to honor past marshals like Bass Reeves, who in 1875 was commissioned as one of the first African-American deputy marshals west of the Mississippi River. Reeves was a skilled gunslinger who on one occasion brought in 19 horse thieves to the federal jail in Fort Smith all by himself. But as the nation's oldest law enforcement agency, Bass Reeves is only one of many characters etched into the storied history of the U.S. Marshals Service, including the famous 3 guardsmen of the Oklahoma Territory, Wild Bill Hickok, the Earp brothers, Virgil, Morgan, and briefly Wyatt, along with Doc Holliday during the shootout at the OK Corral. Today, that same grit and courage defines the Marshal Service. U.S. Marshals were in Oxford, Mississippi to protect James Meredith when he became the first African American to attend the University of Mississippi. U.S. Marshals were in the state of Washington when convicted Soviet spy Christopher Boyce was captured when he escaped from prison. And U.S. Marshals were in Oklahoma and New York to administer justice following the terrorist attacks that took the lives of innocent Americans. Since 1789, the U.S. Marshal Service has served this country with dedication and distinction, upholding its creed of justice, integrity, and service. And today, U.S. Marshals continue to play an integral role in the security of our country. They assist when tragedy strikes. They ensure the safety and well-being of federal officials. And they track down and apprehend some of the most dangerous fugitives, murderers, sex offenders, and gang members with little regard for their own. Mr. Speaker, the U.S. Marshals Service has meant so much to so many. Over the course of history, more than 250 marshals have given that ultimate sacrifice. They have selflessly given their own lives to protect our way of life. This coin will serve as a token of our appreciation and a symbol of their sacrifice. Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of people to thank, including the 300-plus co-sponsors of this legislation, who with their co-sponsorship made consideration of this bill possible. I want to thank Chairman Backus for his support in moving this bill forward through committee. I want to thank my friend Mike Ross of the 4th District of Arkansas, for his personal involvement in seeking co-sponsors for this legislation and his unfailing support for the construction of this museum. I want to thank Ed Pastor. Ed took this legislation to the Hispanic caucus and got widespread support there. Thanks also to the late Ray Baker, the mayor of Fort Smith, who was in the early beginnings of the development of this museum project, and current mayor Sandy Sanders. I want to thank the CEO of the Marshals Museum organization, Jim Dunn, and Jim Johnson. And very soon they will be conducting nationwide campaigns to see that the funding is possible to construct this museum. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to have sponsored this legislation. I also want to thank my friend John Bozeman, my predecessor, who began this process in a previous Congress, and I know will work very hard in the Senate to champion this legislation through the other body. But I'm proud to have been the sponsor, but more than anything, I'm proud of what the U.S. Marshal Service means to our country. And I am anxiously looking forward to the construction of this museum so that we can showcase the museum, the institution of the Marshal Service, and the Fort Smith and the 3rd District of Arkansas to all who will come and see. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back my time.
Gentlemen.